when you first look at this text of the Beatitude, that verse can be pretty daunting, right? You can look at it and say, pure in heart? I'm not pure in heart. See, the other Beatitudes, they're a little bit easier to grab our arms around, right? You can look at the other Beatitudes and say, blessed are the poor in spirit. And you can say, okay, yeah, I can be poor in spirit. Or you can look at the other verse that says, blessed are those who mourn. And you can say, okay, yeah, I can maybe do that one. I can do the mourning. Or blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness. You say, okay, yeah, maybe I can do that. And blessed are the merciful. You say, yeah, maybe I can do that. But when it comes to pure in heart, it's like, God, how can I purify my heart? See, that's a difficult one. How can I actually do this? And here's the thing. You can't objectively purify your heart. You cannot do that. You cannot objectively purify your heart. Only Jesus can do that. See, as I've said in the past, you could change your hair color if you have it. You could change your eye color. If you got nails, women, they could put the different colors on to match their outfit. You can do different lipsticks if you want. Guess what? You can even change your eye color with contacts. We can change all of these things, but the heart is something that we can't change on our own. It's the one thing you can't do. We can't make this heart that is dominated by sin turn to a heart that is full of righteousness and seeking holiness. We can't change that. You change all these other things, but you can't change that. Only Jesus, by the power of the Holy Spirit, can turn a heart of stone into a heart of flesh. So if you have a loved one that you're constantly praying for and you're getting frustrated because they're not changing their ways and you're getting mad at them because you want them to just change and change, guess what? You're going to be waiting for a very long time. And here's the other thing. You're actually setting that person up because you're putting them in a position to change something that they can't change. You want them to change, but they can't do that change. Only God can make that change. But we look at them as if we expect them to just change their heart and just get it right and just to love God and just to live holy. No, they can't do that. And we put too much on them to expect them to do that. Only Jesus can do that. So that is what you want to pray. You want to pray in frustration. Why don't you just change? Why don't you just stop doing that? No, you pray, Jesus, go after them, grab their heart, change their mindset, change their ways because they can't do it. It's only by God. It's only by Christ that a heart can be changed. Now, I want to show you that in an example. Go to Acts chapter 15, verse 8 through 9. Acts 15, 8 through 9. We're here, Acts 15, 8 through 9. You have Peter, he's with all of the apostles and disciples, and they're discussing some issues going on in the church concerning the Gentiles. And look what Peter here says here. Peter stands up in front of the crew, and he says this. He says, and God, verse 8, who knows the heart, testified to them, talking about the Gentiles, giving them the Holy Spirit, just as he also did to us. Verse 9, and he made no distinction between us and them. Here goes our verse. Look, cleansing their hearts by faith. You see what he's saying here? Cleansing their hearts by faith. How are their hearts cleansed? How are their hearts purified? How are their hearts changed? It is by faith in Jesus. He's showing that is how the heart changes. See, Peter is talking about in Acts chapter 10 a few years ago. Cornelius, the Holy Spirit, or angels come in and speak to Cornelius, and he has Peter summoned. And so Peter comes to Cornelius's house. Cornelius has his whole house there. They're ready to hear Peter preach. Peter begins to preach the gospel to these Gentiles. He tells them about Jesus. He tells them how Jesus died for them, how he has took on their cross, their sins on the cross, and how Jesus is one day going to judge the living and the dead. And so he's preaching the gospel to these Gentiles. And as soon as Peter begins to preach the gospel, the Holy Spirit just interrupts his sermon and then just comes down and just falls upon these Gentiles and begins to purify and change their heart. See, the change in heart can only happen by God. That is how the change in heart happens, when they begin to believe in Jesus. See, that's what peace with God does. When you seek peace with God through Jesus, God does not just cancel your sin debt. He does not just cancel your sin debt, but he comes and makes you his own, and he begins to transform you, and he transforms the way that you walk, talk, and act to where now you are living like a child of God. That is a changed heart that only God can do. See, God is the only one that can change the heart. He's the only one to objectively transform and change your heart.